Yeah, actually, it's smaller with me because my ass is
I would
raising up to
just
my shoulders.
would just like to reiterate the no cursing law.
All
Ooh,
right, keep it clean. You're calling in. Keep it clean. We're down to 1 minute. As
well,
soon as
that could
this,
be problematic.
we're looking at 30 seconds. Let's go quiet. We're going to go into our intro, and I will, while that's playing, get the tweets out and then cue Basil. 15 seconds. The use of electronic cigarettes should be restricted to those of legal smoking age. We neither endorse nor desire you to use nicotine. The information and opinions voiced on this show are accurate to the best of our knowledge as of this date. Welcome to Vapelink.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to what this should be. What I think episode 12. If you're following in the very episodic format of Vapelink, and of course, I am joined by my regular cohorts, Mr. Kazakan. Say hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Nice. I knew he was going to do that. Why did I open that door? And of course, Mr. Sensefield. Good evening.
Going, guys.
And today or I guess tonight, technically. It's nighttime now, isn't it? We are privileged to be joined by the lovely Genie K, host of the Genie K show on VP Live. Hi, Genie.
Hello, Basil. Hello, gentlemen.
And doubling down on the special guest tonight, we also have the man himself, Zen, from House of Hybrids, if you will. Zen, how we doing?
Good, how you doing out there?
I'm doing real well. So, we have the proverbial five-way going on tonight. No shortage of vaping insanity. So tonight we've got two guests. Just in case people don't know, Jeannie, you wanna intro yourself a little bit, toot your own horn here.
Yeah.
Tell me what? Yeah, I am the host of the Genie K show on the VP Live Network. People don't have to look at me there like they do here. The show is all about trying to help out new vapors. That's about it. Facebook page, and I even have Twitter now.
Ooh.
You're on the Twitter now?
Yeah, I'm on the Twitter now.
Nice work.
I
Nice
still
work. It's about time.
haven't
It's about time.
dove into Twitter. Now there's too many things to keep up with. Facebook, Twitter, the forums. I just
I stay
is
out
true,
of the
this is
forum
true.
since.
do you stay out of the forums? God bless you.
Yeah, I do. I try to. I try to get active and.
Well, there we go. So, Jeannie's trying to get active. She's working on it over there, and I can't imagine there's anybody in this room or watching over with our good friends at VapeNet who isn't aware of the Genesis line of rebuildable Genesis tanks and hybrid devices. Zen, do you want to toot your own horn? I think you should.
What would you like me to say? We make a line of. No, I don't like tooting my own horn. Actually, we make a line of rebuildable hybrid PVs and atomizers, and it's been up and down, but so far things have been pretty good.
Yeah. So what's the latest? The Sidewinder is still the newest offering, is it not?
The Sidewinder is the newest offering. I'm just trying to get. Just bear with me. I'm distracted by something going on here. Actually, carry on for a second. I got to deal with something back at the office
Sure.
real quick. And
Sure,
then
I'm
we'll
going to
get
kick it
back
over
to
to
that,
Cos.
if
We've
you don't
got some
mind.
Vapelink updates, and I'm going to let him take care of those. 'cause
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
got
we
them all
do.
written down, I think,
We've
somewhere.
got some epic news in addition to VapeNet and TVN and Vapor Trails. We are now being carried by Elixir, and the date and time of those replays is to be announced. So I'm really happy about that. And I noticed Mandy was in the room, so thank you for setting that up, Mandy. And we're basically good to go. Also, we're on ECF, New Vapor, eSig Advanced, and eSig.tv. So you can find us, and that was basically it. So while Zen is getting his stuff worked out here, I wanted to check in real quick with Basil. You got your ZMAX.
I did. I just got this today, so I've had a chance to play with it for about 15 minutes. So, unlike some of the other ZMAX varieties that are out there, this now has an OLED screen, which we'll see here if we can get it to look for you. I mean, crystal clear text. The menu system is much easier to navigate, I think, which was a big complaint from the other two there. And Genie, you've got a ZMAX too.
Show that screen again, because I put you full screen so that people can see it. Obviously, we're not going to get great video quality at this kind of distance in Minnesota, but you can see that it's very readable as opposed to something
very
else.
much so.
Okay. Is that the other? Is that not the Smoke Tech one? Is that the Sigelli?
It is. It is the Sigelli ZMAX, and I don't have I don't have a scope, and I don't have a Vape Brain, so the ECD meter from Vape Brain, so I can't get you the real great RMS numbers. But the menu system is really easy to navigate. It's about, I think, 5 or 6 clicks, 4 clicks to get into the menu, and then from there, it's you're going to navigate menus just by holding it for a minute. Or not a minute, just letting it be for a second, then it'll flip into that menu item. So you can go in, you can turn it on, off, LEDs on, off, switch it between mean or RMS, and switch it between wattage and voltage. And the nice thing about it, too, and I don't know if the original did this, I would imagine it did, but when you get in and you set it to power, which is for wattage, it then when you cycle through the full menu again, only gives you the options to lower or raise the wattage. Is that how the other ones functioned? I haven't played with one enough. I've never had one of the others.
Yeah, you go in, you change it to power, and then the voltage changing options now become the power changing options.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought that's the way it worked because it wouldn't make sense for it to work any other way. But so far so good. One thing that I did notice is that my 2,000 milliamp hour AWs they're very, very snug in here, and the threads need to be lubed up. So when you put this in here, it sits essentially flush. I mean, there's no hangover, which means you're really jamming the screw on here, the spring to get the end cap in, which is that's a big pain. That's a big pain, if you ask me. Now I can see with the other cap if that fits any better, and it may just be that I'm using the wrong cap. Maybe I'm an idiot. You think so? I think so.
No, wait. So you're the extended cap or the shorter cap? Which one are you using?
Now I have the extended cap on here. System on. And now it's
the
firing.
extended cap works for both setups. It's a little loose, I found, on mine, which is the Smoke Tech one with a single battery in it. But I don't really understand the 2-cap thing.
They're not that different. The one cap is maybe, well, I guess, there's about a quarter of an inch difference between the two. But it just doesn't seem like it's enough difference that they needed to include both of them. But hey, I've got them. So if I ever wanted to stack batteries, which I don't want to do in this device, I'm ready to rock and roll with the stacked batteries.
More toys, right? That's what it's all about.
And I'm actually kind of on the same note. Been using the Eagle, also known, I believe, as the Vamo. I've been using it for a week. I showed it real quick last week. Solid, same thing as a ZMAX, really. It's a ZMAX, only with without the crazy menu system. I tell you what, Basil, I'm very jealous of that OLED screen.
Yeah,
it is really nice. It's by far the nicest screen I've seen on anything. I think that the Darwin has probably had traditionally the best screen on any device because it has all the options and it looks good, especially when they went to the blue LED. It's nice and clear and easy to read. But in terms of just how slick the screen on this device looks, the Darwin's got nothing. I mean, just in terms of the readability and how clear it is.
Wow. Yeah, because I was actually somewhat happy with the Darwin screen. Even though I wasn't happy with the Darwin, I thought that the screen was fantastic. I wanted that in a tube mod so bad.
Well, you're going to be able to get one soon, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine when the 20D comes out, it's going to be in a tube mod sooner or later, and that excites me.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's got the on-chip buttons. That's just begging to be in a tube mod.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm getting beat up in chat over the Go-Go review still.
Still? Wow. That was almost 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Some things never change. I'm back, by the way.
All right, fantastic.
Anything put on the internet, Kazi, has a tendency of coming back to bite you in the ass in the butt at the worst possible times. I'm sorry, I'm trying.
And I've got teeth marked like you wouldn't believe.
Plus, it's there for absolutely forever.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So, Basil, my friend, go for it.
To a point where nobody can run for president because of Facebook. We're getting there. We're getting there. When my generation is old enough to run here in another couple of years, we'll be there. So I was going to say Mike, but we've got 3 mics, so that's going to be real difficult and fun.
Just go with Zen. It's fine.
Yeah. So Zen, the Sidewinder is out. And
yes.
For those who haven't seen the Sidewinder, you just want to run us through? Do you have one handy?
Yeah, let's see. I have a Sidewinder right here. Is it showing up there?
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's a lot of lag here on the camera.
Yeah, I'll get you full screen.
There we go.
Just do your thing. I'll follow up on the production. We're good.
All right.
So
cool. that's the Sidewinder. It's a new form factor. For us, instead of being a tube, we've got a machined metal body, machined aluminum. It's made out of 6061 aluminum and stainless steel. We're still using the 316 LVM stainless. It has a place down here where you can put electronics into it, i.e. the kick. It works, for people that are mechanical vapors, it works just fine without a kick. And that's the way I prefer it, but some people like using kicks, and takes an 18350 battery. It's available now in 4 colors, which is black. There's a body there which is like a dark deep blue. Actually, I just held up the black one. I got a blue one here somewhere. There's the blue body, and I've got a silver one too. I don't have one in front of me, but it's in colors now. It's the it's the latest thing we've got going.
Zen, could you hold the blue one up one more time and just lift it a little higher than you did before, so people can see it? Yeah. So that's the body for it, right?
Yeah, it's just the body, but
right.
It's
the same satin finish. It's the exact same satin finish as the black, but it's in a blue.
Right.
We've also got the red is a satin finish as well.
Right.
The silver is a satin. Well, you see the theme there.
Can you turn it so the top is towards the camera so our viewers can see it a little bit better? There you go. Yeah. That's
something like that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's really gorgeous.
So those colors look they look really nice. What made you decide to go with those specific, maybe deeper, richer colors? Just because, like looking at a lot of stuff that comes out, if it's going to be colors, lots of times they're like candy-ish colors and stuff like that. I like the fact that you kind of went against that and you have more deeper, richer colors.
Well, there's a lot to look at when you bring something out, and I've tried a few different ways of selecting colors. The first method was I would pick a color, I would get an artist to do a 3D drawing of it for me, and then I would go to an anodizer and say, here, copy this color because I like it, and that's had pretty disastrous results. Instead, what I've decided to go with is I now go to an anodizer which does really good work. I say, show me what you can do, and I pick colors based on what they've got there that I like. So I've gone with finishes that they can do readily without ridiculously high upcharges, which I've found myself with before. And the other thing is they do these finishes all the time, so they're much more predictable. But more importantly, these are not finishes that are really ending up in the vaping community in general. They're more industrial finishes that have been adapted for this purpose, because we're going with a real tough grade of anodizing. It's a hard coat. And I'm picking what's available now instead of trying to put square pegs into round holes, because that hasn't worked out well for me in the past. So the other thing is I want something that isn't cheap looking. I want something that's got a rich finish. I want something that's more upscale, and doesn't have that as much as we all like teenage girls, it doesn't have that teenage girl look to it. So
right.
So,
and I have to tell you, I can appreciate that, because I like the deep, rich colors. I'm not a pastel kind of girl at all.
Yeah,
I'm not even a fan of pink.
Well, we do have a pink coming, but
you have to do that, right? I mean,
but it's a richer pink. But the big thing for me with the finishes is we're kind of after classy. I want more of a formal look. It's really about the black and silver. I want it to look like a tuxedo kind of a thing. The blue and silver, I want it to be a sharp, dressy PV, and not something that resembles a toy or a plastic toy. I'm just after a higher end finish, and at the price points that we're at, I think people deserve something a little bit classier.
So the Sidewinder is the newest device, Zen, that you guys have put out. But let's talk about how you got into putting mods together in the first place. So how did this all come about? How did we get from I've got an idea to I've now created arguably one of the most passionate groups of fanatics in the vaping world?
Well, we got to, if you want to go back to the beginning, we'll go back to the beginning. I bought my first e-cig, and it was a 801, and and so you can think about how long ago that was, when 801s were sort of the keys to the kingdom. But I immediately, within about an hour of getting it, I immediately looked in. I gotta mute my speakers for a second because the echo is driving me crazy. But all right, so I immediately said I can make this better. The voltage was anemic. I immediately checked the resistance of the atomizer. It was like 3.6 ohms or something like that. And it became real obvious to me what they were doing was going with a higher resistance coil so that the battery would last longer. They were just trying to sort of cheat the systems to optimize more battery life, maybe a little less vapor production. But I immediately started playing around with changing the voltage, so I created my first pass-through that used that atomizer. Now this was a good probably 6-8 months before I even discovered ECF. I didn't know that there was anybody out there that even cared about vaping. I bought one at a smoke shop, and I set forth to kind of make it better because I didn't like the way it was performing. So I pretty quickly ended up with a 5-volt pass-through, and started playing around with trying to make it better. Then I started playing with making better atomizers that work better on it, and within a month or so, I didn't have anything that even resembled what I started with. And some 5-6 months later, somebody pointed out ECF to me, or actually I discovered ECF when I was searching for some place that sold e-juice online or locally, and I found a vape meet that was literally happening that day, and it was the first upstate New Yorkers Vapors gathering, and I crashed it. It wasn't a member of ECF. I just showed up and crashed it, and everybody was there with their egos and their 901s, and a couple of people with 510s, but that was, you know, real new technology. And I walked in with this Black & Decker power pack that had a cable coming out of it and an 801 atomizer on it. It looked like I could hang it over my back like the Ghostbusters rig. And you know, I was vaping off of that, and for a while I was plugging it in and charging it, and people were just like fascinated by the fact that I was doing something that was different, and started talking to a lot of people. Joined ECF that night, and it just sort of went on from there. That was sort of the first modifications I did, and then I started modding flashlights. I'll hang tight one second. I'll be right back. It'll only take a second.
We pause for a technical logistics moment.
You still got that modified flashlight.
The modified.
Yeah, you're going to see a modified flashlight. I'm going to show you the first the first Zen device, and I'm going to hold it up. You'll see it. This is has a bit of a cult following in a few places. This is the Zen Red Rocket. It's a 5-volt 214-500 with a 5-volt regulator, and it's modified from a Harbor Freight magnetic pickup tool. And I sold a bunch of these locally, and you know, people that have these really like them. They're a 5-volt 510 modified flashlight, or modified lighted pickup tool. So that was kind of the first thing that I did. Those sold for like $50, and I didn't make any money to speak of on them, but I was just having a good time making them. And it went from there. I modified some little blue flashlights that I found at not Harbor Freight, at Home Depot, and that was called the Blue Meanie, and there's a couple of those around. I don't have one readily accessible. And I started modifying pill fobs and anything else I could find, and I had down a lot of the modifications were done. I had a mini lathe in my basement, and I said, you know, I can go down and make parts so that I'm not, you know, really adapting things, and started making parts that fit onto these flashlights so that they had more of a machined thing going on. And one thing led to another, and said, I'm kind of tired of modifying stuff. I'm going to make something. I'm gonna go from scratch. I'm gonna get some chunks of aluminum and, you know, bore it out, thread it up, and make something from scratch. So I made a couple dozen, you know, one-offs that were what's the best way to describe it? Sort of copies of things like the P18s and the Precious and that sort of stuff. And then I wanted to buy a hybrid, because I started seeing people's signature lines with the hybrid mini thing, the little beast from Croatia, and I said, I gotta have one of those. I want one of those. So I set forth to try to find one, and everybody that had one wanted like $400 or $500 for it, and most of them didn't work. Right. So I couldn't find one that worked, and I couldn't find one for less than $500. And I started looking at pictures of them, and I said, well, I think I can make one. So I made one, and in the process of making it, I started looking at the first prototype was kind of a copy of the hybrid mini, and it didn't work very well. So I said, I think I can improve on this. So I started playing around with sending the voltage up through the center and moving the coil and the wick off center, because that was not anything that was happening then. And at that point, I realized if you do that, then you can start playing around with where the air hole feeds to the wick, and you can end up with adjustable throat head. Just through experimentation, I discovered that, and then I started playing with how the air flowed in the top, and one thing led to the next. And around August of 2011, I had in my hands the first Genesis PV, and it worked really well. It was solid aluminum. It was an 18650. I made it was everything that I wanted in a PV, and it worked really good. And a couple of friends of mine said, "Hey, you should you should make some more of those. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to make more of those. That was kind of a pain to make. And my friend Al said, no, listen, man, make 5 or 6 of them. VaporCon is coming up. Make 5 or 6 and take them down to VaporCon. Show them to people. See what they think. So with 5 of them, and I started by making 10. By the time I was done making them, I had broken so many parts that I only had 5. And I got them down to VaporCon, and about 15 minutes after arrival, I didn't have any left. Everybody wanted one, and I was thinking about, well, okay, maybe I'll make 5 or 10 a year, or 5 or 10 a month, or something like that, and see. But I'm not sure I'm committed to that whole idea. So I went back and found out that I had been banned from ECF for being a vendor. So it's like, well, how could I be a vendor? I've only made 5 PVs. They said, well, we heard that you were selling PVs at VaporCon and that you're a manufacturer, so you have to leave. And I said, oh, well, what do I have to do to come back? They said, well, you have to pay us. And I was like, well, how much do I have to pay you? And they said, well, it's $50. And I'm like, really? You want $50? Okay, I'll send you $50. And so I became a vendor, a registered supplier offline, for $50, and didn't do anything with my thread until early December. When I made the announcement, I plan on making about 10 a month, and the next day I had 100 orders. And,
were you overwhelmed by that initial reaction?
I'm still overwhelmed.
That big?
I am still overwhelmed by the reaction. I'm just blown away by it, to be honest with you. I never expected this. So I quickly said, well, I can't make 100 of these in my basement. I could maybe make 10 a month. So I said, well, that's it. I can't make them by hand. Let me think about what I'm going to do. So I set forth to get them into CAD and get them to a machine shop and start getting stuff made. And what I initially told people they were buying was an aluminum PV with a plastic tank, and by the time I got done with the machine shop, I started doing research on materials. I started doing, and it was, I immediately went to, it's going to go to stainless steel. And then I said, there's all kinds of stainless steel. Let's do some research on stainless steel. And then I realized, well, there is definitely a qualitative difference between the stuff that they use for silverware and the stuff they use for nuts and bolts, and the stuff that they use for hip implants. So I knew that 316 LVM existed, so I said, let's use it. Let's go with the best stuff we can get. So it's real expensive, but I figured there's no point in spending the money on machine time if you can't put the best stuff in it. So that's what I did. I decided to make it out of 316 LVM, and I told all the people that were waiting for them that I'm going to make it out of 316 LVM, and you're going to pay exactly the same price that you were going to pay when it was aluminum.
I think Kaz had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You went through this massive process to get where you're at, and it sounds familiar to me because a lot of vendors and a lot of vapors have gone through a similar process where they're making stuff on their own, or that type of thing. Where are you at now? I mean, what is it that are you geared up now to produce? Is that where you're at? Is that what your goal is?
Oh yeah. Okay. So cutting to the chase, the thing grew real fast, and I've never ever been able to catch up with the demand. I've introduced a lot more products because I'm just like that. Everything I want to make. So at this point where I'm at is we are literally shipping 150 pieces a week to ProVape for the Z80 Pro, which is 600 pieces a month. By the end of December, we'll be at 800 a month to them. I'm sending another 200-300 pieces in various shapes and sizes per month out. A lot of them are going. 310 Vapors is selling the Z80U. Mon Company is selling the Z80G, which is for the GG. And all of the PVs are being sold by electronic sticks now because it's grown to the point where I can't keep up with orders. I really suck at customer service and processing orders. and all that sort of thing. And you know, I've had to make the decision to stick with what I'm good at, which is designing stuff and dealing with the logistics of getting the stuff into the market.
So what's your current product line? Because I have to admit that I know of you, but the vaping community has gotten so large now, it's almost impossible to stay on top of everything. So what is your current product line?
Current product line is 4 stainless steel PVs. One is called the standard, one is called the mini. And those are, the mini is a 18350 battery with a 4 milliliter tank. The standard is an 18650 battery with a 5 milliliter tank. Then I've got the AYS and the Ash. Anybody who's been in the community kind of knows where those names came from. But those are the Ash is an 18650 battery with a 4 milliliter tank, and the AYS is an 18350 with a 5 milliliter tank. So they're sort of the opposites of the standard and the mini. So I've got those in the line. I do a few runs of titanium a year. So I've done an 18350 mini titanium run. I've done an 18650 titanium run, and those are about to be repainted around the 1st of January. Those should be out. We've also got a new size in titanium coming, which is an 18500 with a 5 milliliter tank. That's called the Andy Man. And that's named after one of the vapors locally that bugged me until I made it. And there's going to be a stainless steel version of that as well. Then I've also got, I did a limited production run called the BAM, which was cursed from the start. It launched on Friday the 13th of April, and those are finally out the door, and with every possible thing that could have gone wrong along the way. I've done the Cobalt, which was plagued by finish problems. I've done 2 runs of pink Pacellas, none of which have made it to the market because of finishing problems. I've also done some minis in aluminum, just raw unfinished aluminum called the MFA, which is matte finished aluminum. And I've also got 3 atomizers, which are the Z-Eddy-U, Z-Eddy Pro, and Z-Eddy G. They're for the Pro Vari. There's a 510 Universal, and there's one that fits right onto the GG as long as they get their threads to fit.
So are you able? Is that all of them?
And the side.
Okay.
And there's new ones.
So are you able to meet demand on these, or is there always a waiting list for it?
There's always a waiting list. It doesn't matter how many I make at this point. They disappear in minutes once they go up on websites. Doing the best I can on it, but I don't know what the size of the market is. Only that it seems to be insatiable. I have actually gone to the point where we bought I bought a Citizen A32 7-axis Swiss turning center for $300,000, which is sitting over at a local machine shop cranking out parts right now as we speak, because it runs 3 shifts, one of which is lights out. Even that's not going to be enough. By mid-January, we're going to have another Swiss machine running. That's we're looking for a used one now. We bought the first one was new, but I'm looking for a used one now to add to it. And it's going very, very well on that end of the business. There's other ends of the business that aren't going as well, and that's the customer service side I was bad at, and there's been some problems along the way. But I've said recently that pretty much anybody can make 50 or 60 PVs in a single run, but getting to the point where you're hitting schedules and doing production runs and having all of the product and the packaging and all of the parts and the people to assemble them and all that, the logistics of that has been bigger than I ever imagined that it would be. But it most definitely has been getting better and better and better as we go. But it's a learning curve for me.
I want to pick your brain a bit. You mentioned that you had some finish problems, and I know that, and I'm not trying to be offensive here or anything, but I want to talk about those a little bit, because I know that you had to kind of break down and do some repair work. I mean, at VaporCon. Do you mind talking about that a bit and just kind of what happened there and what plans you might have to keep that from happening on future runs?
Well, you know, the easiest way to keep that from happening on future runs is to have enough time to get the product out and have it not be and have it not be have it not be flawed. You know, with the deadline of VaporCon going and all of the other orders going, going up into VaporCon, I rushed things, and let's face it, it was most definitely a rush job in some cases. I pushed my limits and all of the people around me's limit to even be there with product. And it came down to either show up with nothing or show up with what I had and hope it was going to be okay. And, in retrospect, it was both a mistake, but it was also there was a learning curve there. I learned something from it. And that's what not to do. And so I ended up, with some egg on my face. But rather than cutting and running, let's work through it and let's get it worked out. Welcome to the human condition. We make mistakes.
So do you feel like do you feel like the criticism that sort of floated around the community surrounding some of your products is warranted? Have you?
Well, some of it is and some of it isn't. I can handle criticism that's real. That's based on fact. I can't handle criticism that. Well, I can handle it, but I don't enjoy criticism that's based on a lack of understanding how things work.
Well, nobody enjoys criticism. Obviously, it's as we're prepping for the show, we heard from some people in the community who had been customers who were a little bit critical, I just wanted to bring that to the forefront because we don't like to gloss over anything having to do with this, and we admit to being human too. Actually, no. I will admit to sucking. The rest of these guys are human. It's what I like about what I hear you saying is talking about there were some mistakes made and stuff like that. And I wasn't expecting that, so I appreciate hearing it.
Well, Mike, the fact of the matter is that every product that I've brought out so far has had problems that needed to be dealt with. Okay, right from the get-go, the first minis and standards that shipped back in March, I had a problem with the switch, which resulted in me having to literally redesign the switch and send everybody that bought one a new switch. Right. I had a problem with the. I made a decision to not go with the poly tank that I was going to go with, and be the first person to ever bring a fused quartz tank into the market. I sourced that. I made some decisions based on that, and I made an incorrect decision. And one of them was the biggest decision that I made was it's going to be okay to have it cut and have a ground glass edge, and it turns out that that's not a good idea. It makes the tank too fragile. So I ended up, having to replace all of those first tanks. So the first 100 of those were out that, were sunk money, and then the first 100 pieces that went out had switch problems, all of which had to be fixed and it was pretty expensive to make it right. But if you put a product out and it's wrong, you got to make it right. So those had problems. The titaniums, when they came out, did not have problems because they had the benefit of learning. They were basically the same product as the stainless pieces, but made out of titanium. But by the time the Sidewinder came out, now we're into a whole new territory here. We're into anodizing. We're into mating stainless and such. And the other thing, we had a time constraint. And to make matters worse, there was a critical part that needed to be put in there to make it work properly, and I didn't machine them in time. In fact, I forgot entirely about them until the day two days before I was leaving for VaporCon, and realized I better come up with a workaround or these products are not going to be there. So my plan was to say, here's the Sidewinder, here's what it is, there's this little part in here which is made of plastic with a spring in it, and it's not the right part. And I'll get everybody the correct part. Just let me know your address and I'll take care of it. That was my plan.
Is that the issue with the Sidewinder that people were having with the kicks?
Yeah. No, that's okay. We'll get to the kick in a second. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's the kick bypass. That's what makes it work without a kick. Okay, so let's start there. I knew that I had a problem. I tried to do a workaround that was going to be fine. And if you didn't take the top section off of it, and it would have been fine. But the first thing people did when they got them was took the top section off of it, and that part flipped. That part flipped over and then didn't make connection, and that's a problem. So I knew it was a workaround. It was my plan to say, here's the thing, here's the problem, here's how we're going to fix it. But here's what happened instead. We got set up at the table, which we didn't even know we were going to have until a couple of days before, because I was originally going to be selling kind of one-on-one with people and not have a table. So we got there with the table, got set up, had all the product out, the doors opened up, and there was a wall of people in front of us. And when I say wall of people, I mean, I've never seen a crowd like this coming at me that didn't have pitchforks and torches. This was a wall of people, and they were there to buy a Zenesis device. There was no time to say, here's the problem, here's the issue, here's the this, here's how I'm going to fix it. It was, here's the money, out they went. And then people coming back and saying, hey, wait a minute, man, this is a bunch of BS, it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, hang on a second, man. You know, there's this issue. And the people that I could explain it to, I could. I never expected that I was going to have a wall of people in front of me literally throwing money. It's a good problem to have, but given what was going on, it's a really bad problem to have as well, because there was an issue and I knew it. And in retrospect, if I had known that was going to be the case, I would have held the product back and not sold it. But it was, but it was out, and that was it. So everybody that came to me and said there's an issue, I said there's a problem, there is a fix, it's going to be coming, and literally by the time I got back from VaporCon, dropped the people that were in my truck off, and I went immediately to the machine shop and started making parts. And by the end of that week, they were in the mail to people that were at VaporCon. It literally took me under a week before those parts were available. But here's the problem: there's people in the vaping community that, for whatever reason, decided that it was cute to go onto the website and order the replacement parts, and they don't have the PV.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Makes it harder for you to supply the people that needed them with those parts.
Well, because people are just trying to get free stuff.
What are they going to do with it? Is the point. It's useless. So then I hear that people are in the chat room saying, here's what we should do when he puts them on. Let's take up all these free parts with free shipping, and we'll make it so that he doesn't have them for the other people.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
So the bottom line there is I put the parts out, but 30% of them got taken up by people that were taking parts, and they had no right to them. And because I didn't know who bought what, at VaporCon, I had no way of controlling it. So we real quick put in a thing that said, if I don't recognize who you are, I'm going to ask you for proof that you have it. Send me a picture, blah blah blah. But at that point, I had already lost, $150, $200, maybe $300 worth of parts. It's unfair, and it's a shame that people will behave that way. But it is what it is. There's some immature people out there, and that's just the way it is. We deal with it. We move on. I made some more parts, and we got them going. So that was problem number one.
I actually, I had a Sidewinder, and I waited to get those parts. I sent you a picture, even though I know you knew who I was, but I sent you a picture anyway. Followed the instructions, got the parts, installed them in a couple minutes, and went ahead and started testing for my review. You told me when we first got into a conversation that, I wanted to buy one. I think I yelled at you across the room and said, Zen, when am I going to be able to get my Sidewinder? And I had already asked you maybe 3 times, and you had been telling me, oh, you can get one tomorrow. But when we first started having a conversation, you told me that that part was a little iffy. Well, I was one of the lucky ones who mine actually worked because I didn't take the tank off of mine until I got home, and that's when I screwed it up. You know, I must say that I did get those parts really fast, and I was kind of impressed about that. I thought I was going to be waiting a month, you know, 3 weeks or something like that. So I was pretty impressed with that, and I did wait to get that before I did my review. You know, just because I knew that that's what other people were going to be buying. So I thought it kind of made sense not to, you know, review it based on that wonky piece that you know it came with.
And that's completely reasonable. And and I appreciate the fact that you did that, because other people didn't hold back. They went with a part that was never intended to be there, and they never checked with me to see what my real intention was. But it is what it is. I mean, I put the thing out there with that. If you want to review that based on that, it's true. It happened. I'm not going to say it didn't. And by the way, about a week after VaporCon, I started hearing that that a number of the tanks had some finish flaws on the inside of them, and they had some leaks. So I immediately got into the role of redesigning that as well. Produced those parts. Those have recently been shipped out to Jason for the ones that he's sold, and all of the people that I've shipped update kits to are going to, in this week that we're in right now, are going to be shipped a new tank to replace the one that they had, and that part's been redesigned to cover 2 issues that I think were pretty important. One there was a lot of complaints about, one there was virtually no complaints about, but I still thought that I could fix it. One is the leaks from this section here, which was caused by finish flaws inside the tank. That's been corrected. And secondly, I've backed the threading off on this so that you could put an O-ring above it. And now when you put the top cap on, it keeps juice from coming down through the threads. So there's no residual juice coming down there. So those are product updates. That's going to come out. I guess my point is when there's a problem, I take care of it. And I didn't have the opportunity to straighten it up before VaporCon because there was so many people that were really, really anxious for the piece, and I thought there would be the time to explain, yeah, here it is, but there's going to be some issues. We're going to take care of them. I didn't have that opportunity. And the other thing that happened was people were having problems out around the tables and not coming to me. The people that did come to me, I gave them temporary fixes. I explained it to them, and oh, sorry, I had to deal with something. So the people that did come to me, we straightened it out and explained to them what was happening. The people that didn't, just the rumors started flying. You know, I'm a jerk, I'm an idiot, I put out products that I shouldn't have put out. All of which is probably somewhat true. I was a jerk for putting them out. I shouldn't have done it, and I thought that I would be able to explain what the situation was, and there just wasn't the opportunity.
Zen, I don't mean to cut you off. I do want to just say that I think it's pretty commendable that you're certainly not trying to hide from, and you're being very, I think, open and candid about some of the mistakes you've made. I think we do have some calls on the line though, who probably have some questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, let's take some calls here. We've got a queue set up, so I'm going to start with area code 585. You're on the air here on Vapelink. Tell us your name and tell us and talk to Zen.
Hi, my name's Chris.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good. Zen probably knows, you probably recognize the area code, but I was actually curious about if you're ever going to go into the world of variable voltage.
Will I go into the world of variable voltage? I probably will not go into the world of variable voltage. I'm doing some experiments in other areas involving regulation, but variable voltage and variable wattage are not where it's at. Yeah, that is, you're right. That is a Rochester area code. Just looking at the chat window. I don't know who. I'm not sure who Chris is, to be honest with you, but. So that's the situation with variable voltage. The thing is, if you want variable voltage, there's lots of great PVs on the market that do that do variable voltage exceedingly well. There's a lot of ones coming in from Asia, and of course the ProVary is just an amazing PV, and I make an atomizer to go on it. So I don't really think that I'm going to personally do a variable voltage device, and I'm
right.
Just that's not what I'm about.
That's a good.
Never say never, though.
That's never say never. But that's a good answer, Chris. Did you get your question answered?
I can say that it's unlikely. Now there is room in the electronics port, and I don't call this section the port. I call it the electronics port because there is room in there for if somebody wanted to develop a variable voltage module that could be dropped in there. That's where that could go. And there's enough room there to do it. I don't believe that I'll produce that. So that's pretty unlikely. I hope that answers your question.
So Chris, did that answer your question?
It does. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks for calling.
I'm putting one caller who I spoke to via Skype back one call to third, and area code 716. You're now on the air.
Hey guys, how are you tonight?
Really good. How are you?
I wanted to ask Zen. I've been keeping track of his website about the heresy. It said October he's going to release some info on it. I was wondering if that's still going on and if there's anything going on with that at all. You're still planning on making that, releasing it, any tidbits about it?
Yeah. The heresy. Here's the thing with the heresy is the heresy is going to be a really cool PV. The prototype is being really well received. It's not going to look exactly like the prototypes that were going around at VaporCon, but it is definitely going to come out. But I've had to really focus on taking care of business here. Getting the BAM resolved was important to me. Getting the Sidewinder colors out was important to me. Getting all of the issues with the Sidewinder squared up before I moved on to another production piece was more important to me than rushing that piece out. The Heresy is going to be a really cool PV that is something that I've always wanted. And by the way, that's how I decide what I'm going to make. If I want one, I hope everybody else will want one. So that's sort of my design criteria, is what does Mike want? And what Mike wants is a big battery automatic PV. And that is exactly what the Heresy is.
Gotcha.
And the Heresy is it's going to be repairable in the field by users. So if you get some juice down into the automatic switch and it damages, you damage it, you will be able to just change the module right out yourself by threading it in. It'll be it'll be a very high-end automatic PV. And it works really well, and there's still some parts sourcing that has to be done. I'm really looking at having it out by realistically end of January, sometime in February. The rush on that is not on. I've got to really take care of business on the products that are out already, and I promise you guys, I'm never going to rush a piece to market again because I learned my lesson. I mean, if you make that mistake once, and you take care of it, that's fine. But I did it twice. I rushed products to the market twice. I know I won't get a third shot at this. So it's that simple.
Is the question answered? Area code 716.
One more quick question for you.
Sure.
And I know you take care of all your customers. I've had that experience myself. I could honestly thank you for that. Are you ever going to give us a stiff draw cap again?
I'm sorry?
Are you ever
he asked about the stiff draw cap, if that was going to be available again.
Yeah, the stiff draw cap is going to be available again. I didn't like I don't like it. And I came out with the stiff draw cap because the demand was high for it. Everybody said, I want a stiff draw cap, I want a stiff draw cap, I want a stiff draw cap. So I said, okay, fine. And I made I don't know, 100 of them or something like that, and I shipped them out to people that bought them, and then they said, I I've decided that I like the open draw better. Can I send it back? So I mean, I sold the same stiff draw caps to like 3 people each before I was finally out of them. And by the time it was all, people got used to open draw, and that's what I kept saying would happen, is that people on these Genesis type atomizers will eventually get used to open draw, and they'll find that it produces the best vapor. And I didn't like putting out a device that I knew put out inferior vapor but gave people a draw that they preferred. So they got the draw they wanted, but they didn't get the performance that they wanted. It was a flawed product design, and it never should have come out. But I brought it out as a result of demand that was what people thought they wanted, as opposed to what they absolutely wanted. So it's gone. I mean, you know, somebody recently sent me an email saying, I really want a stiff draw cap, and I said it's discontinued, and they sent me back another email saying, well, if you ever find one, you know, if you ever do another one, let me know. And I found one that had been returned from somebody. I threw it in the autoclave, cleaned it up, and sent it and sent it out to the guy for free, because I don't even want to charge people for that thing. I don't like it, and I think that it should have never been made. And for the same reason, I don't think that the adjustable draw cap was the right idea either, which is why I never produced it.
Okay, well, you know what? I said one more question, but this might help other people too, so I want to ask it. I have a Zen Pro, and I've actually had 2 of them, and one of them seems like the clearance from the center post is a little bit shorter than the other one I had. Were there any production variances in that you know of? Because I found I had to cut my wick a lot shorter on one as opposed to the other.
What do you mean? You mean the center post inside the tank?
No, inside, under the top cap where you connect your positive lead to. Maybe the top cap is a little bit thicker on the top. I'm not sure. I was just wondering if you've run into that issue, or if that was a problem you guys may have had when producing these.
Okay. Well,
all I know is on one of my Zen Pros, I have to cut the wick quite a bit shorter than on my other one, because if not, it will hit the top cap.
Yes, there has been. 1 second. Okay. As far as that goes, there has been some variables in the top cap, and there has been a few variables in the height of the glass tanks, which can affect the clearance on the top cap. So that's one of the things that we've been working on in tightening up the tolerances of those parts. We are, and that's an important that's an important thing to bring up. From run to run, there has been some variances as we're tightening things up. So that's, you know, that's what's happening. There is some variables. They all do work, but there has been some variables there.
Okay. So I think we're going to have to push the next caller. I don't mean to cut you off if you had more questions, but just for the sake of trying to get everybody through, Kazi, we got the next one in line here?
Yeah, we're going to move to the next caller. Thank you very much for calling. Area code 66. All right, you too, man. Take care. Area code 662. I have to do this once a show. You're in the link.
What's going on, Kazi? Mike, and Jesse, and this is Jamie, JC West, and this call, I guess, it's kind of been a long time coming. So, I just, I kind of want to say, to start off, this interview hasn't gone anywhere near like I thought it was going to, and I absolutely can respect and appreciate the fact that you come on this show in public and admitted to the mistakes and the flaws in the Cobalt and in the Sidewinder. I didn't expect that to happen, so I will commend you for I guess, acknowledging those mistakes. But there's one thing that I have a major problem with, and it's not necessarily with you. It's with the people that you let represent you. There's a difference I would call myself a Zinfandel. I have basically just about every Genesis product that's ever made. I love Zen products. But I go out and I do a review that I didn't destroy the Cobalt in my video review, but there are some people, and it's a group of about 5 to 10 people that literally worship you. They think that you're incapable of doing wrong, and they think you're infallible. And one of them I know, after an event that happened the night before last, I believe is close enough to your inner sanctum that to some degree you have to support it. Because I go on Elixir TV, and I've got a phenomenal Zenesis in my left hand. I've got the polished aluminum Mini #1, the first one that you made. There's actually a picture of you holding that Mini in your throat.
No, you don't.
And I'm praising this Mini about how wonderful it's vaping. But in my right hand, I'm holding a Zenesis Cobalt. It doesn't perform. It's already had all of the anodizing strips. It's had the spring replaced. Literally, it's gone through the ringer. And after 4 people working on this product, you know, the level of disappointment now on my second Cobalt, I just lose it. And I toss it over my right shoulder and say, I'm tired of messing with it. So the room ends up crashing, and we end up over into a Google Hangout. And in that Google Hangout, I don't know the guy's name. He's the bald guy who was running credit cards for you over there at Vaporwall. I'm not at Vaporwall, over at VaporCon. He goes to telling me that the reason my Cobalt's not working is because I'm using a 30-gauge wire and a 1.2-ohm coil, and that you have invented a spring that knows what kind of resistance that's going to the coil, and I am not going to be able to use 30-gauge wire on my Cobalt. And so at that point, that becomes almost ridiculous. And I say, are you going to try to convince me that Mike has now invented a magic spring? And
so
then
Jamie,
with unicorn sinew or unicorn intestines.
Jamie, hello, Jamie. We need to pare that down. Are you still talking? He's still talking.
Like you're trying to publicly pick a fight with me. Mike, if you want to pick a fight with me, you can find me anywhere.
Jamie.
All right, I think we need to be done with Jamie here. This is getting a little out of hand. So either Jamie needs to cool it, or Jamie needs to.
Yeah. Well, we just disconnected the call. I want to make something
can I respond to some of that, please?
Just hold on a second. I want to make something completely clear. There are vendors that we take to task on this program, and we're happy to take them to task. What we're not willing to do is start having threats coming out from people calling in. I am not cool with that. Don't call back, okay? All right. I don't care whether Zen was right or wrong. At this point, if it goes to that level, you're not welcome on this show, and that's it. Thank you. Go ahead, Zen.
All right, so what I want to, I'd like to address some of that. First of all, nobody represents me but me. I'm going to say that twice. Nobody represents me but me. Okay. If somebody makes a comment about one of the products, that's their opinion. Okay, that is not my opinion. My opinion, I am perfectly willing to state anytime. Now, that's number one. Number two. You know, I don't even know how to respond to some of the things that he was saying, because I wasn't there to hear the things that were said. There was a big row about the spring that happened afterward, and I heard something about it after the fact, and somewhere along the line something got misconstrued. But I want to clear a couple of things up for Jamie and everyone else that's listening. My devices are not designed to be used with anything but the wire which I supply with them, which is 32 gauge Canthal. And the reason that I do that is because I, unlike most other people that are making these types of devices, actually go through the process of putting my products through insurance underwriting so that I can have product liability insurance. And I have to specify it's to be used with this battery and this wire, because otherwise I can't get insurance on it. If you use it other than as designed, then you are using it outside of the parameters which I designed it to use, and that's on you. Now, I put a spring. Well, let me back up one second here. There is a small group of vapors which I like to call the extreme vapors, okay? These are guys that are pushing the limits, they're stacking batteries on these things, or they're going to sub 1 ohm coils. They're going to 1 ohm, 1.2 ohm even is too low for the C rating of an 18350 battery. They are not designed to be used that way. They are dangerous to be used that way, and I am not going to produce a device that will perform in that way. I have put a spring in the switch button of those PVs, which is a sufficiently small wire gauge so that it will current limit if you put a coil on there that is too low. It's, you know, there's no magic spring. There's no special thing that figures out what the resistance is. These are not the laws, these are not the good ideas of physics, they're the laws of physics. And if you try to suck too much current through that spring, it's going to current limit because of its size. It's intentional. It's to prevent people from using these devices in a way that they weren't designed. And if you want to use it in the way that you want to design and you blow your face off, I don't want to hear about it.
So I have a question about the spring there, Zen. So essentially, what is this? A very thin gauge metal? That
yeah.
Okay. Now, yeah, I want to tell you something. I have an electronics background. So what he's talking about is that anytime you have electricity flowing through metal, it flows through the outside of the metal. That's why a larger gauge wire carries more electricity. It flows on the outside. It does not flow through the core of the wire. So by using a thinner gauge, you're decreasing the amount of surface area on the outside, and that will current limit in some situations. Now, I have not tested his spring, but his theory is correct.
Okay, so and it's actually not even a theory. It's reality. In AC voltage, they would call it skin effect. In DC voltage, it's current limiting. So so what's happening here is the switch is designed to hold the current that will flow through it at under 7 amps. The battery, and if we start getting above 7 amps, here's what's going to happen. That spring's going to dissipate that electricity that current as heat. So when you start hearing people saying, my switch button is heating up, guess what? You either have a short in the top or your coil resistance is too low. It's really simple. You put enough current through a wire, it's going to heat up. It's exactly the same way your Canthal heats up. Canthal's higher resistance, so therefore it heats up more readily with lower wattage, but it's the same principle. And the whole idea here is the C rating of that battery says that you're not gonna safely pull more than 6 amperes of current through that thing. And it's just that simple. If you try to draw more than that out of there, you are putting yourself at risk. And I'm not going to put out a device that you can vape with using an 18350 battery at over 7 watts. I picked that spring and that gauge of the wire because it absolutely will hold the thing as close to 6.5 to 7 watts as we can get at the top end. Anything less than that, and that spring starts to break down into heat. That heat is there. It's your friend. It's called the protection circuit. It's a really simple. It's a really simple and crude protection circuit, but it's still a protection circuit, and that's the bottom line. So you know, there was the whole thing about I made some magical spring. No, I simply applied the laws of physics in an area which I am really concerned about, because I don't want people vaping these things in that way. There are devices out there that you can use. Don't use mine that way. I would prefer that you didn't.
I think that when you start getting into those sub 1 ohm coils, I think you're getting into dangerous territory. I know it's kind of become the rage. People are doing it in the Odysseus. People are doing it in you know, mechanical Genesis atomizers as well. And about once a week, somebody looks at a video about, you know, a couple of the Genesis mods that I've reviewed on my YouTube channel and say, oh, you got to get that coil down to 1 ohm or lower. And I just think that when you're pushing the battery that hard, 18650, 18350, 18490, you're just really opening yourself up to have something not good happen.
We've got another
call.
Let
me say this. There's some people talking in the thread, right? They're saying in the thread that an 18650 IMR can safely do more than 6 amps. It absolutely can do more than 6 amps. But the devices that we're talking about are devices with 18350 batteries in it, and they are rated at 6 amps maximum current. I will not make a device that will draw more than that out of that battery. It's just that simple. And by the way, Jamie, I get what you're saying, but there's a better way to say it. And that's the thing. Fewer people will shut you down if you speak respectfully to people. And speaking respectfully to people does not start by saying, I really respect you, but, you know.
Yeah, and
can I change direction for a second?
Well, hold on just a second. I want to say this because it's important that it gets said. Jamie contacted me before the show and asked if he would be allowed to ask questions of Zen directly because he had some problems. And I said, there's no problem. I said, keep what you're saying short and concise. He said, I have 3 things I want answers to. I said, do this question, get an answer, do this question, get an answer, and do this question and get an answer. And what we got wasn't that. And so,
well, I'll tell you what. Let's try something different.
I need to go down this road here, because if he is going to claim that he's been censored or he wasn't offered the opportunity, to get his viewpoint across, it's false. I just don't want that on the show. And when you watch the replay, I think you're going to see exactly what was happening in audio. So.
All right.
We do have more calls coming in for you, Zen. Would you like to take them?
Well, wait, I think Jeannie wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeannie, go ahead.
And Zen, you don't know me. I mean, we were introduced at VaporCon, but that's about it. I mean, you and I have never interacted on a professional level. I do not have a Zen mod. The technology and winding coils and all this stuff just glazes my eyes right over. But my question is this. I heard a story about you from VaporCon, and I would just like to know that if it's true or not. There was a gentleman that came to VaporCon and had the intentions of buying 2 mods. One was the Zen. He came, he got his Zen, and he went around VaporCon, and he ended up spending a little too much money on all of the other things, and didn't have the money to get the second mod that he had planned on purchasing.
Okay, I remember this fellow. What about it?
And what did you do?
Oh, I bought him the mod that he wanted to get.
Okay, thank you. That's the only point I wanted to make here. Because that is what I know of you. You came on here, you are discussing the fact that you made some mistakes, you're owning those mistakes, and far be it from me to try to gloss anything over, because I'm usually the one that's beating people up. But you have done your best to make good on this, and there are not a lot of vendors out there that would hear that story and say, well, come on, and take them to another vendor's table and lay down the cash for them to get this mod. I don't give a shit how much money you made at VaporCon. That was still a good and kind thing that you did.
Absolutely.
Well, see, listen, here's the thing. I'm blown away by the response that I've had to this, both good and bad, but I have received so much love from people, and I've received so much praise from people, and I've received so many kind words from people and gifts in the mail, and people sending me notes and cards and letters that are saying, you know, dude, you saved my life. I couldn't get off analogs, and now I am. And I'm grateful to this community for the opportunity that I've been given. I really, really am. And yeah, there's going to be some people that make a lot of noise, and it might be self-aggrandizing. It might be whatever it is. I don't even want to get into the psyche of that. I can just say this from my point of view. I am just blown away by the response, and I never saw this coming. So when somebody comes up to me and says, you know, I came here and I wanted to buy. There was 2 things that I wanted, and one of them was one of your PVs, and one of them was, and I'll say what it was. It was an Empire mod, and he said, I've always wanted one, and I said to him, I said, well, they're probably sold out. And he said, no, they still have 1 or 2 over there. I said, well, let's go get it for you. And he was like, what? And I said, let's just go get it for you. And I went over and I bought him the PV because honestly, you know, he went there to get one of mine and one of his, and it didn't work out the way he wanted. And I'm just, you know, it's, listen, you get out of life what you put into it. The more you put out, the more you get back. And the thing is, those aren't words, that's reality, you know. If you spend time with people and you get to know people and you're good to people, people will be good back. And I don't, you know, that's not an act, that's real. That's not who I am. It's who everybody is if they allow themselves to be that. And as far as I'm concerned, I was in a position to do it, so I did it. I didn't do it so that I could come on the show and talk about it, because I haven't told anybody that story. I think you're the first person that I've heard that story from, actually. You know, because
well, I know and that's why I asked it, because I heard it at VaporCon, and I haven't heard it since, and I don't think that you got a fair shake with all of the criticism that you've fallen under lately, and I just thought that needed to be pointed out.
Well, and I appreciate it, but I didn't do it so that I would get recognition. I didn't run around telling people I did it, and it wasn't a public act. I mean, it was just something to do. It's like you know, and again, I don't think it's big to do that. But when people call me and say, "Can you donate a mod for an auction?" I do. When people call, you know, if it's a good cause. You know, I did some custom PVs for the Wounded Warriors Fund for a vape beat down in Texas. I sent one. I've got another one of the Wounded Warrior PVs that I'm gonna get into another raffle soon. You know, I believe what you put out, you get back, and that's just the way it is. You know, there's people talking in the thread here about. Junkie Rock's wife's PV that was stolen at my table. Her ProVary was stolen right off the table or in the direct vicinity of the table. And when I heard that it was stolen, I loaned her my my ProVary to get her through the weekend, and said, when you get a chance to get another one, you know, just send it back. But later on, I found out that they didn't have a lot of money, and so I had a PV sent to her. You know, another ProVary to replace the one she lost. The thing is, it's you get back out of life what you put into it, and you know, if you put out anger and you put out and you make vile comments about people and that sort of thing, you will get vile stuff back. But if you put out, if you're good and you're nice and you treat people the way you want to be treated, then it will come back to you. And you know, people are surprised that I'll come on here and say, yeah, I made some mistakes. Well, what am I going to do? Say I didn't make the mistakes? It's pretty obvious, you know. Everybody makes mistakes. You know, it's how they get handled that matters. So, you know, that's the way that goes. You know?
Yeah, you know, I have to say that I bought the BAM, you know, back when I wasn't even planning on buying it. And, you know, I saw a thread saying they were for sale, so I pre-ordered. And, you know, I know it went past the August deadline for it. But never did I ever feel like I wasn't going to get my BAM, you know? So I think that, you know, like just sometimes things need to get taken care of, right? Sometimes you have to fix things and, you know, make sure that you're putting out a good product. And it's not a matter of always making the perfect decisions or the right decisions. Sometimes you make the wrong decisions. I know that you feel that the Sidewinder thing with the little piece was maybe the wrong decision in hindsight.
It was definitely the wrong decision.
Well, you know,
I do think that the one thing that has definitely come through from this conversation is that if you have a problem, you know, eventually there'll be a resolution. That Zen will make you whole, you know, one way or another.
Well, I don't know that, because the person who had the problem wasn't civil enough in order to make his case. But I'm taking him at his word. I have absolutely no problem taking him at his word in that regard. But I don't know. So I mean, listen, guys, if you call in and we have a vendor on, you have a problem with the vendor, we definitely want you to get your issues resolved or whatever. But be nice. Just be nice. We do have a call. Can we clear the call?
Yeah, let's get him in.
Okay.
Yes,
area code 585. You're on Vapelink. Welcome. Oh, your audio is very, very low. 585. Are you far away from your phone, or?
We got a real thin string on the other end of that tin can, maybe.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot.
And you have to mute your stream.
Yeah, you have to mute your stream.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear
there
you
we
now.
Go.
Thank you, sir.
A couple questions for Zen.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mike,
I had the pleasure of having lunch with you once. Bought a couple Ziadis from you. I just had a couple questions about the spring that sends the power from the bottom to the top positive.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's got spirals in it. I was just wondering, would the electricity travel faster if it was a single pole, like, you know, brass or copper, than that spring?
Okay, no, it won't travel faster because electricity always travels at the same speed. But there is a longer distance there. But since it's traveling at basically the speed of light, you know, it's not that big of a distance in the grand scheme of things. It does have more resistance because it's longer, but the nominal insertion resistance of that spring, because it's zinc plated, is probably you know way less than 1/100th of an ohm or something like that. So it probably I don't believe that putting something solid in there would benefit you beyond beyond making it a solid connection. The spring actually, again, is there to make it so that, because the ProVape, their 510 connections vary from production run to production run as far as depth goes. In order to make that thing with that skirt on there go down and always connect, it needs to have that variable connection there. Because when the first prototype of that did have a solid bar all the way through there, and it worked on the 2 ProVaries that I had sitting here, and then I put it on the very next ProVary that I put it on, it wouldn't fire because it wouldn't connect. So I had to delay the production of that piece by nearly a month while I redesigned that so that there would be a spring in there, and that carried on into the Ziadi U as well. That made the device more universal to get onto more, because again, there's not a solid spec out there for what the depth of a 510 connection is. They count on a rubber or silicon gasket up inside an atomizer to flex in order to make the connection. And I just found that we either had to make it adjustable with a screw like some people have done, or come up with something a little slicker, which is the spring. And the current carrying capacity of that spring is actually pretty great. So to answer your question, it's not going to make a big difference if you were to make it solid.
The other question I had was obviously the main reason why we use these things is to get off of analogs. But I remember when I was talking to you, some of us, it's a hobby too, so we try different things, and obviously there's different numbered mesh out there, opening up holes. But I remember you saying keep the insulator in and use your size wick. And I've got 3 or 4 different Genesis style, and there's nothing better than a Ziadi in my opinion. They're close, But why is it that you stress that? Keep the smaller diameter wick instead of taking out the insulator and putting in thicker metal. I mean, a thicker stainless steel mesh.
Okay, to answer that, that's a really good question, and a lot of people have asked me that. But it's cool to get that out in this kind of a venue. First of all, when you have a narrower diameter mesh, okay, when you have a narrower diameter there, you're going to get more wraps on there, which gives you more resolution. So the difference between 1 wrap, 2 wraps, 3 wraps are finer adjustments. When you've got a larger wick, you've got less resolution. The difference between 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3 is a much larger degree of resistance. So you have a more finer considerably more finer adjustment available to you as you're making those adjustments. Taking off 1 wrap, knocks it down a much smaller amount than if you've got a bigger one. So in terms of resolution and being able to tune it into an ideal vape, a thinner wick gives you the opportunity to get better resolution. The other thing is going with the narrow wick and the insulator is a lot of people have trouble oxidizing wicks. And when you don't have an insulator in there, you really got to get that part right. If you don't get the thing oxidized really, really well, it's going to short against that which is ground, and it ends up giving you an unpredictable condition. Current starts traveling through the wick to ground. And the other thing is, even with oxidation, if you put a meter on it, and I don't think people should need to be scientists to vape, and I don't think they should even need to own a meter to vape. But if you were to put a meter on there and measure between the coil, between the mesh and ground, even with a well insulated, with a well oxidized wick, you're going to read 4,000 or 5,000 ohms in there. Because it's not an insulator. The oxidation is not an insulator. It's just putting resistance in there. And some current is going to flow through to ground through that. And that's going to, as long as you're sinking current to ground, you're wasting battery power. And you're not producing vapor with that battery power. You're just simply sinking current to ground. So this resolves that. It makes it easier to set up the coils because they're there. The thinner wicks are much easier to get dialed in right because you have a wider resolution, and it just simply performs better for a guy who may or may not be good at creating oxidation. And even if you are good at creating oxidation, it gives you longer battery life because you're not sinking any of your current through to ground off of that connection. It also makes your wicks last longer because as you're running current through the wick to ground, it causes that to crispen up a little bit and shortens the life of a wick. If you've got a wick and an insulator and you keep it relatively clean, I put wicks in my PVs. This one that I'm vaping right here, this wick is the wick that I put in the day that I made that PV, and that's months and months ago. They last a very, very long time if you do it that way. The other way, shorter life, harder on the batteries. The insulator just makes sense to me. And there are some people that say you don't need it. I say take out a meter, and you'll read that oxidation is not an insulator. It's resistive. So that's it.
So does that answer your question, area code 585?
Yep, gotcha, Mike. Thank you, and great show, guys.
All right then.
Nice to hear from you, by the way. I do it again.
We're going to move on to area code 804. I'm going to do this for a second time tonight because it makes me feel so good. You're in the link. Area code 804. Pick up your phone, sir, or ma'am.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me good?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you just fine. Welcome to the show. Who are we talking to?
All right, my name's Danny. I'm kind of have a question, kind of piggybacking off of the whole JC West thing with the spring.
Okay.
Basically, with the whole magical spring, quote unquote, as said, I noticed on the House of Hybrid website yesterday that, it almost seems like there was a mockery being made of that because the magical spring was up there and it was made of unicorn sinew and the model number was JC West. So, isn't that, what's going on there?
Okay, I'll answer that question. I have a sense of humor. I wonder why he doesn't. When I went into the hangout, people started talking about it, and I know, Jamie, I wasn't picking a fight. You were picking a fight. I was making a joke. And he said, well, there's no such thing as a magical spring, whatever. So I put it up. I just changed the model number to JC West 1. I said that it was made of magical unicorn sinew. It was a joke, and that's just the way it is. It was funny. Everybody laughed about it except him.
I guess from a person who's when it goes 8 against 1 in a Google Hangout, it's not really taken as a joke at that point because you do have a good following and your customers are loyal and whatnot, and that's great. But they can be defensive sometimes.
I suppose that's true. But the reality of it is was it the right thing to do? Was it the wrong thing to do? No, it was just a thing to do. Was it professional? Was it unprofessional? I don't actually care. It was a joke, and if you didn't find it funny, that's fine. Everybody else found it funny, so You know, was it the wrong thing to do? Oh well, once again, Zen is human. So there it is. And I wasn't in the hang.
But I mean, you know, like putting a customer on the spot like that, who had expressed problems to you already, and making a joke like that, I mean, it could be perceived as ridicule. And you know, I have to tell you, please don't interrupt me. I have to tell you that from the standpoint of being a customer, that's something that I don't particularly like, because I've been an asshat of a customer many times, and I've angered vendors more than once, and I anger people all the time as a customer, and the good ones don't make light of it. And so I kind of really have a problem with that. Now I will tell you that you know, Jamie is 100% wrong in the way he handled this on the show. But I'll also tell you, as part of the crew here, my personal feelings about this is that that's something that should never be done. I mean, if I criticized a product or I had a problem with a vendor, and I was doing it on this show or I did it in a video, and somebody made light of it, I think I would be heartbroken and I would feel attacked. And I think Jamie feels the same way. And although he was wrong in the way that he called, I just wanted to say that.
You know what?
And that's what happened in the Google Hangout. Everybody was making a huge deal about his negative reviews on YouTube, you know, saying that he was bashing the product when he was just simply reviewing the product as it was. You know, a lot of people had issues with the anodization on their cobalts, you know, with the anodization on the switches, you know. So, I mean, they were valid points being brought up, but, you know, the diehard fans took it as, you know, ridicule, took it defensively.
Well, I think there's something to be said about anybody who is gonna jump on a camera and put themselves, their face, their name, their voice out for or against any product. That kind of comes with the territory in some ways. It doesn't matter what the product is. There's always going to be a loyal fan of it. I could go out and put up a review of a basic 510 kit tomorrow, and I'm probably going to have people telling me that the 510 is the greatest thing, and I'm an idiot for saying that there's better. I'm going to have people that, you know, are right there with me, you know, cheering me on. I mean, that kind of comes with the territory of putting yourself in the limelight like that and wanting to be a reviewer. Is that not everybody's going to agree with you?
Yeah, but it should never get back to the vendor's website, though.
Yeah,
I mean, escalate back to the vendor.
That's just that's really uncool.
Can I say something about that?
This is an open forum, man, and you're here. Have your way.
All right. So let me say something about that. First of all, let's back up for a second and say I wasn't in the Google Hangout when all that went down. I came into the Google Hangout afterwards, and Jamie was invited back in to talk with me, and he refused to come in. Irrespective of that, what I did in retrospect, and I hadn't really looked at it from anybody's point of view but my own, in retrospect, Kaz, what you brought up is absolutely true, and I was wrong. It was funny to me at the time. I can see, as you're putting it out, I can see from your point of view, and now it's becoming my point of view, that what I did was not right. And it was funny to me at the time, but it wasn't the right thing to do, and it's not funny anymore, because again, I had only viewed it from my point of view. And from my point of view, it was funny, but I had not looked at it walking a mile in his shoes, and I owe him an apology for that, and it's absolutely.
You know what? I'll tell you. I'll give you the same advice that I gave to the last people who had a conflict on this show. Call the guy up, talk it out, and make peace, because it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I'll give him a call. And I didn't have his phone number until I guess recently he sent me his phone number at ECF. So I'll absolutely give him a call. And honestly, you know, I'm a guy that when I'm wrong, and I admit it. And I hadn't seen it from that point of view.
Okay.
So I appreciate you taking the time to bring that up, because you know what? If it's important to him, it's important to me. So we'll make it right.
We're going to take one more call here. Area code 617. You're on the line.
Hi.
Hello.
Am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
Absolutely. You're coming through. Welcome to Vapelink.
Yeah. I got a question for Mr. Zen. Well, you know, I understand, you know, about the politics, all these drama that's been going on lately. But I'm more into the technical aspect of things. So I got a question, or a few questions, just tech questions. No drama, no politics, just technical, tech stuff. Number one, Mr. Zen.
Yes.
Earlier we talked about the insulator. Your point was well made. There's no need for oxidation, but from my understanding is that the insulator, the material, is made of Teflon, which is potentially hazardous under extreme heat. For example, when you are dry burning, the whole coil, the wick coil, they all glow, and there's definitely a possibility that the insulator will melt, and they have done that in certain cases. The top part of the insulator has melted.
You have an answer, Mike?
Yeah. Well, was that I didn't actually catch the question. That was just a comment. Is the question, why do I use Teflon as an insulator?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The reason that I use Teflon as an insulator is because as long as it's down inside. As long as it's down inside the stainless steel section and not projecting up above, the stainless steel acts as a heat sink and prevents it from melting. If it slides up, it can become heated and it can melt. I use it because it is the safest thing that I can put in there that will work. Teflon is debatable as to whether Teflon in this situation is an issue. I'm not the only person that has used Teflon in a PV. I actually followed suit because Teflon. There have been other devices that the entire top head of the thing is made of Teflon. Teflon. I'm following in suit with what came before me, and it actually does work. Is it safe? Is it not safe? There have been studies that said in certain circumstances Teflon outgassing is not safe. There have been other studies that said when in contact with metals it is perfectly safe. You can make your own decision as to whether you want to use it or not. I recommend that you use it. The device can be used without it. Lots of people do. I just don't design it to do it. But more importantly, my insurance underwriter says that it's a safe material to put there. So from that perspective, that's what I'm insured to use. And some of these decisions don't get made by me. They get made by the fact that I have product liability insurance, and that helps to define what some of these materials are. There's also people that are saying that stainless steel mesh, when heated to a certain degree, can outgas certain components as well. But the alternative then is to let's go back to silica. Oh wait, silica has issues as well. Well then let's just go to Nextel ceramic. Oh wait, Nextel ceramic has issues as well. Maybe we'll just, well then what about Kanthal? Well, Kanthal has some issues too, possibly, but it's certainly safer than nichrome. But geez, most people are vaping on nichrome. We could go on and on and on and on about the safety of these particular things. But the material safety certificates for it say that it's safe to be used in this particular case. There's arguments for aluminum, against aluminum, for stainless, against stainless, for silica, against silica, for ceramic, against ceramic. And not to make light of it, cigarettes will kill you. Carbon monoxide will kill you. I don't know that there's outgassing coming from that, but I can tell you this: I've been told that it's safe by authorities that I respect, and I'm going to and the most I will ever say is this is safer for you than smoking, as far as I'm concerned. You can make your own decisions about what's safe for you. The alternative is to not use it. The alternative is to put something else in there. I mean, we can go after any single component of any device and find something wrong with it. And honestly, that's been my argument all along. When there's liquid in contact with it, which there is at all times, and when it's down inside the metal and it's acting as a heat sink, it can't overheat. If it slides up, it can overheat. The key thing there is know your product. Don't let it slide up. Don't dry burn it too long, and you won't have an issue with it. Outside of the given parameters, it may very well have issues, but certainly nothing like a cigarette would. I've never said that people should be non-smokers and then start vaping. I'm saying that they should be smokers and switch to vaping. And if along the way we get people into something which is safer for them than what they were doing, then the material safety of this device is far and away better than what they were doing. The rest of it falls where it may. My device is no different than anybody else's. If you put an insulator in there, it's either going to be made of Teflon or not at all. So
what I'm curious about, area code 617, was that
basically it comes down to the end user who decides for him or herself whether the insulator will be used or not.
Well, I think that's a responsible place to go right now, with the fact that there's data on vaping. There's not a lot of data differentiating different devices or constructions. But at the same time, if vaping is a couple of orders of magnitude, which would be 100 times less dangerous than smoking, then the risk of a Teflon how much does that increase from the risk of a Teflon insulator that will only gas if it's heated to a heat it's unlikely to be heated to? I mean, that's the kind of point that I would be making when I was looking at it. But I think people actually need to be, informed about this stuff, especially when we're talking about the kind of mods that we vape.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we also have to remember that this is harm reduction.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
This is not harmless. And I worry about everything that I use as a wick. Just because, there's, I don't know, when I vape silica, I feel something tickly in the back of my throat. It's different. It's a different vape for me. So I don't vape silica. I don't know what that is. I don't know, just even the stainless steel mesh. If I'm inhaling something, I'm worried about what I'm inhaling. But as long as I'm not inhaling cigarette smoke, I feel pretty good about the fact that, it's a harm reduction thing. I will say that I do feel like if I didn't vape, I'd probably end up eventually smoking here and there. This keeps me away from cigarettes. So there's going to be inherent, dangers in it because we don't know enough about it.
Yeah. Area code 617. Did you get your questions answered?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks,
thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Cozy.
Welcome. Bye now.
Thank you.
So let's. We're coming up. We're way over time here. We're at an hour and 40 minutes at this point. We want to do wrap-ups.
Usually turn into a pumpkin by now.
Yeah, you're looking kind of like a vegetable, but a cute vegetable.
Oh,
there's a difference.
Easy now. We want to
very cute vegetable. Absolutely.
So,
listen, before we go and totally wrap this up, I want to get something on the schedule. I'd like to take 2 minutes when we're done with Zen to talk about Genie's show over at VP Live, because I didn't get any details other than it's for new people, and I don't know much about it. So let's explore that for 2 minutes when we're done. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh yeah. So, I guess I have a BAM here, and I haven't tried it, but I did want to question, I guess, what the fix is. What was the issue with it, and what's the fix? And we all know that everybody's getting, a working unit in the mail sometime soon because they shipped out. But I'm just I guess I'm just curious as to what the issue was.
Sure. First of all, the BAM had a number of issues, and I'm going to give you the real short form of it, which I think is doing the problem an injustice. But problem one is I had a 3D artist rendering done of what it was going to be. I had a 3D drawing of what it was going to be. I sent it off to the anodizer and said, replicate this. He missed by a mile. I said I can't ship these looking like that. I had the anodizing stripped off. I sent it to another anodizer and tried again. The particular anodizing that I needed to have done was bright dip anodizing. There's not a lot of places around that do it. All of them are very, very busy and very, very expensive. But I went with a fairly expensive guy up in Massachusetts. Sent him the product. It went back and forth 3 times before I had something that I wanted. The parts, the machined parts were done in June. And the rest of the time was spent shipping these things back and forth to anodizers with fail after fail after fail. The last time it went to the anodizer, it sat there and sat there and sat there. He had had enough of me. I had had enough of him. I finally went up and up to Massachusetts to see him to get the thing straightened out, and we shepherded it through. But he did not mask it properly. It put me into the mode where I had to come up with a fix to make it work. There was problems with conductivity on every level, and it took a long time to come up with a solution that could actually work and still deliver the product that would perform the way I wanted it to. My plan was to have them. When I didn't make August, my plan was to have them out by VaporCon. I had the first 20 to 30 of them done before going to VaporCon. Some people took delivery of them at VaporCon. Others had to wait. But we were pretty close to a solution by then. Looked like we were there, but it turns out there was a few more things that needed to be resolved. One of the things that we had to do was switch from an anodized threaded switch housing to a stainless one. So on all of the ones that have shipped since VaporCon, they've got the stainless. Anybody that wants a stainless replacement for their existing one can get that. A few people have sent them back in for that. So that's part of the solution. But the biggest thing was right after VaporCon, I got back. I was working on buying a house that I put an offer in on January 17th. I got back from VaporCon, and the bank said, we're moving now. It was a short sale. It was, you got to close by the 17th of October. Boom. That took up all my time. Then the move started, shop started moving, and then Hurricane Sandy took our power out, our internet out. And I've been in catch-up mode ever since. Finally, somebody made a mention to ECF that I wasn't performing on that. They contacted me and said, you're going to need to come up with a resolution plan, or we're going to have a real problem. And I snapped into action. I said they will be shipped by December 1st. And I got to work, got everything done, and they shipped by December 1st. And if they hadn't to put the push on, there probably still be some people waiting, because as all of this is going on, there's still hundreds of other devices going. I should have been more responsive once I was back up, and once I got back from VaporCon. But there was some things conspired to make it difficult. Other things just got in the way. But I needed to make it a priority. ECF helped me decide to make it a priority, and out the door they went. They said they wanted them out the door by December 1st. I got them out the door by December 1st. I'm not going to stand back and say I got them out on time. No, they were months late. They should have been out August 1st, like they were supposed to. But I couldn't put them out on August 1st because the product wasn't right, and I couldn't put them out on September 1st because the product wasn't right. And they were pretty much well on the way by October 1st, but not quite. So it needed to be done. I took care of it. and it falls where it is. I mean, I've never said I'm infallible. I've got a huge following of people that Jamie's right. I got a huge following of people that defend me even when I'm wrong, and I wish they wouldn't, but they do, because frankly, to them, I'm right more than I'm wrong, and they like the devices and they like me. But you know what? When I'm wrong, and these guys need to learn that that maybe they shouldn't be defending me. Maybe they shouldn't be fighting my battles for me. It creates a lot of problems. I love that they do it, but on the other hand, I don't like that they do it. But the truth of the matter is, they're my friends, and they defend me as though I'm their friend. And I've got a lot of friends, so it, you know, I think that can conspire to create problems with people that you know, it basically they're saying you take on Zen, you take on all of us, and they you know, I admire them for their tenacity. But the truth of the matter is, you know, I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. Yes, some people hate me, some people love me, but in general, I got a lot more friends than I got enemies, and honestly, I've made some tough decisions along the way. You know, when I had to admit to myself, I'm not good at running a retail business. I'm just terrible at it. I get tied up in what I'm doing and creating, and I don't have time to do it. It's not easy to say that. It's not easy to say, you know what, I need to get a guy like Jamie at Electronic Sticks to, you know, to handle the sales. I need to get ProVape to sell the ProVary product, because I can't handle that volume of that kind of customer service. I can produce the product, but the demands on me when I was in the retail mode trying to sell it, I've got a 2,000 PM inbox at ECF that I would empty daily, and it would be full in 3 days. You know, if I didn't keep up on top of it, it was crazy. And people demanding answers and demanding this, and when are you going to have this, and when are you going to have that? And you know what? It's a great problem to have, but it's absolutely overwhelming. And I had to admit, I can't do that. I need people to handle that end of the business. And it's been a very rough year since October of last year till now. I have had to eat a lot of humble pie, and I have had to eat a lot of crow. And I'll tell you what, man, I've grown because of it. And the products are more available than they've ever been, and they're still not available enough. But we're pushing to make it better. And I put the money back into the business to increase production. I don't pay myself. I have a full-time job that pays me, but I do hire a number of vapors that are doing assembly and helping me out along the way. And frankly, you know, even with all of that, every so often we get a guy that you know, that just will not be happy, and I get it. You know, I am absolutely open to criticism. But there comes a point when, if it's the same criticism over and over and over again, and it's been addressed, it gets tiresome. So you know, I'm not a retailer. I'm never going to be a good retailer. This is why I've got distributors, and honestly, you know, it really comes down to, I'm just making the best PV that I can. Is it good enough for everybody? Maybe not. It's good enough for a lot of people, and that's the best I can do. So that's where I'm at.
There you go. Well, I think I speak for all of us when I say that, you know, if you can keep churning out the products, we're going to be happy with them. And, you know, if that means that you're not selling directly, I think that's probably the best move for all of us. Wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't handle it, don't do it.
So, Zen, I really do want to thank you for coming on with us and being so candid. That is quite admirable, and I would love to have you back on in the future. So we will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful night. Don't stay up all night turning machines and fixing, you know, overseeing server fixes.
Yeah, well,
and,
I gotta go deal with that.
And we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really had a good time.
Thanks, then. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah.
So now it's time for Janie. Jeannie, we give you the full screen. Tell us about this show that you've got.
As quiet as I have ever been.
I know, and I don't understand it. But I want to know about your show. Well, I'm sorry we didn't get to it at the top of the show, but real quickly, let's talk about what you're doing over there, because I hear it's good.
Well, I wanted to do a show for new vapors, or geared towards new vapors. And not that it's not interesting for people that are long-term vapors, because, I mean, you know, I've been doing this almost 3 years.
Right.
We try to keep it interesting for everybody all the way around. The biggest difference that I see in anything that I've ever done is that, you know, I won't be covering something one time. You know, if we talk about cartomizers this week and somebody comes in 2 weeks from now and asks a question about them, we're going to address that. All of the newbie questions will always be important.
Right.
They will always be addressed. I got some great vendors to help me help set people up when we get smokers that call into the show, that we can set them up with some decent stuff and get them going and try to convert them and make them into vapors.
So how about, let's talk about the lightning deals, because there's a lot of buzz around that. So how did that get started?
Oh, I've always done deals. That was when PB Dragon and I did our show together. I would research deals 8-10 hours a week and try to find really good deals for people. And now there's several different Facebook groups out there that are doing all of the standard generic deals. And I don't mean generic, I just mean the ones that are blanketed out there. And I wanted to try to step that game up a little bit and try to see if we could get people a little better deal than what their average sale was. So I came up with the whole thing because, you know, I mean, I'm an Amazon junkie. And I kind of might have got the idea from Amazon. But, and to do the lightning deals where, you know, the vendor gives us a really good deal on, you know, not even necessarily the whole site. It might only be on one thing. And it might be for a limited time. It might be for the hour of the show. It might be for 4 hours. And it might be for 24 hours or even an entire weekend. That's pretty much up to the vendor. So long as we can get the vapors a good deal, hey, that's what it's there for, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Is there anything else that we can do to pimp your show?
Thursday nights at 9 o'clock on VP Live.
That's very, very good. Say that again.
Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on VP Live.
Okay, there you go. Mike, take it away. We're all set.
All right, guys. Well, it was a good show. Went a little long. Thanks to everybody for sticking in with us. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Kaz, our sponsors, one more time.
Oh, God, I'm buzzbrained. Well, they're not sponsors. They're partners.
Not our sponsors.
They're partners.
And
we're talking about, we have forums on ECF, New Vapor, eSig Advanced, and eSig.tv. And we are rebroadcast, or we are simulcast by VapeNet, and hello to all the VapeNet people. Replays can be found on TVN and can be found on Elixir. And there is also Vapor Trails, who has donated stream capacity to us. So those, I think that's the entire list. And Basil gave me a hug at VaporCon, so I got to mention that.
There you go.
There you go. So we're out.
All right, thanks for coming on, Jeannie.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Catch you later. We're out of here.
This is going to be a review of the SmokeTech telescope. I felt compelled to make a video now. I believe that there are safety issues with this. Let's get into the safety issues first. Vent through the threads here. I doubted that. That is airtight. Airtight. is venting. Final. End of story. I did it with a balloon.